that's one of the things that drew me to this work, to be able to be a part of the story of transformation of something going from point A to point B and being able to tell that story to get other people excited about it.
Welcome to the Disgruntled PM podcast, your weekly therapy session for the chaotic world of project management, transforming daily frustrations into real action. Welcome, everybody. I'm Trevor, the Disgruntled PM, joined today by my guest, John Sullivan. Now, John is quite the accomplished PM in his own right, and I'd like to pass it over to him to introduce himself to the audience.
My name is John Sullivan. I am I'm a VP of Program Management Operations. Recent title change, but I am a program manager at heart. I've been in this profession for about 20 years, managing projects across continents, across industries, ate up about the work. Happy to come here, talk shop.
Well, let's get started with something you sent to me in the intake form that I think it's very interesting because I feel the same way you do, but I want to know, why do you love project management? Because that was something you highlighted in there.
Wow, that's a really good question. So I love project management because for me, it sits at what I call the three P's between people, pressure, and possibility. Like that is what draws me to it. I'm a journaling junkie. Project management, program management, it gets this bad rap of being like this boring job where you're checking boxes and monitoring critical paths when really you're out there on the front lines helping people transform or evolve their operations and or the way that they take on customers, the way that they interact with the market. You know, you're on the front lines where the sausage really gets made. And that's kind of what I love about it. It's really the pressure, watching people really perform under that pressure to move into that realm of new possibility.
Yeah, I've never heard the three P's that you described before, but I'm not going to disagree with them. And, to your point, one of the things that's so passionate to me about project management is it applies to everything. Like if you're a good PM, you apply it to every facet of your life and you do it by default, not by trying.
Yes, you do. And I've gotten in trouble with my girlfriend many a time applying it to our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them there.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's something like it's not a profession, it's a skill set,
It's a mindset. It's a way of thinking because we never look at things the same way as everybody else does because this is what we do for a living. So we're always thinking, how do I backwards plan this? How do I figure out what needs to be done? How do I show
optimize it?
How do you what? I'm sorry.
How do you optimize it?
Exactly.
I'm horrible in lines. My girlfriend hates standing in queues with me because I'm looking to see what could be done different. Where's the bottleneck? Like, I get on her nerves that way.
Yeah, I was at an event just last week, and we were asked to volunteer to help stuffing bags and filling bags with stuff. And I looked around and I saw a bunch of people that I was with, and they just kind of haphazardly went. And I was like, all right, let's assembly line. Let's start figuring this out. I just went into the default mode of how do we make this optimized? How do we make this as quick as we can? And everybody just looked at me. I'm like, this is what I do for a living.
Yeah. Proactive risk mitigation. That's all it is, right?
Yeah. It was even stuff like, all right, we need to put 25 of those in there. Let's make stacks. Let's start figuring this out. Let's make this as painless as possible and repeatable as possible.
Yes.
Yeah. So when one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about is your previous role at Royal Caribbean.
Sure. What do you want to know?
Well, let's start with, what did you do there?
So I did a lot of things there. When I was first pulled into Royal Caribbean, I was pulled in to program manage special projects. This kind of had me in the lean space, optimizing, getting things on and off the ships. When a vessel's coming back from an embarkation, you got to really turn that ship around. You got to get all that trash, all that used stuff off the ship. You got to get the new stuff, the new inventory on, right? And so the faster you can get at that, the more time you give people at sea. And so that was one of the first things that really pulled me into the organization. But what I really enjoyed doing there was when I got to work in the product development department. This was back in 2018, I believe. That's when I got into product dev, and they were talking about private destinations, right? And which is outside of what was then the revenue stream. Royal Caribbean. And I hope no one was watching because they don't build boats, they build vessels, ships,
Yep.
but they sell boat rides, right? That's what makes the money. Private destinations, that's a brand new revenue stream, which is it's brilliant. It's a brilliant revenue stream. The more you can keep that dollar captive, the more you have opportunities to grab it, right? So by creating those private destinations, you know, and creating that experience for a customer, it's kind of twofold win. One, you get to completely control the experience for them. And again, we were rewarded by the dollars that they gave us while they were on our islands. And so that was probably the coolest project, being a part of Perfect Day, Coco K, the first Perfect Day portfolio, the private destinations Perfect Day portfolio. Amazing to be able to see what that island was when we got there to kind of what it is now. If you have not seen it, I encourage you to go on the website, RoyalCaribbean.com. No, RoyalCaribbeanInternational.com, and just take a look. It's absolutely amazing. And like to see people's faces when they get off the ship and, they walk into what is a true experience. That was just amazing. Right. And so that work spanned everything from negotiating with heads of state all the way to, setting up Wi-Fi, setting up cabanas. I remember right before opening of one of the major areas on the island, in order to make sure that we pulled it off on time, we're flying out there to help set up chairs. You know what I mean? So it was in everything in between, anything you can think of, we managed that. So that was, again, I remember vividly just beaming when anyone asked me, okay, what do you do? I said, I build islands.
So let's start at the beginning of that one then, because that's, there's a lot to unpack there and a lot that I think you can shed some light on things that most other people would never even think of. Because like talking about just reliable power on an island, I'm sure is a challenge.
Oh, for sure. Like setting up the infrastructure for not just the front of house, but the back of house, right? Making sure that you have the staff that lives on the island, making sure that they're set up. So everything from setting up the dormitories where the folks will stay, setting up the logistical flow of how people will enter into the island and out of the island. So that customer experience, which was the coolest part, right? The neatest, what made felt like a rock star every day, because once a month you're presenting to, the president of the organization, the president of Royal Caribbean, the experience of what it looks and feels like. So again, the dredging of I'm blanking,
The bay?
thank you, the dredging of the bay, to get some of these bigger vessels
Yeah.
in, right? Trying to think of other things that you just don't think about.
Well, you
Talk about
highlighted the Wi-Fi, just thinking about that, because we take it for granted that Wi-Fi is everywhere, but I'm sure there it wasn't just setting up routers, it was everything. And then you've got to think about how do you account for the private network that they need for infrastructure versus the guest network. It's not stealing the bandwidth from the private network and so on like that.
Oh, for sure. That was a big thing, right? Because you got people on the island that lives there. So they still need to get in contact with their folk back at their primary residence, making sure that we had a real partition between their needs and what we wanted to make sure we provided for the customer, that for the end user experience, the customer experience, and paramount. Trying to think what else. Logistics of
Getting everything physically to the island.
getting everything physically to the island, all the palm trees, all of the water slides. Gosh, man, the trams that takes people from point A to point B on the island. Like you really have to think about. And again, that's the cool part about being able to present this to the leaders of Royal, because as you're walking them through your plan, you could see their eyes closed, walking through the experience as you explain it. And if something didn't resonate, it was immediately addressed. And so just the urgency of everything to really and that just keen attention to detail to make sure that that person that worked super hard to afford that vacation to go on that island, that they had an amazing time. Like there was no expense that was that was too much when it came to protecting that customer experience. And so that's one of the things I took away from Royal Caribbean. And really it's kind of serving me today, like really managing that. So right now, for me, it's not the customer experience in my role now, but it's that end user experience, right? That person that's going to have to live in that new platform that you're implementing, or that new system, or that new piece of hardware that you're installing on their bus that they're driving, right? That they have to touch day in, day out. That experience. That's again what now in my perch now. That's what again really gets me up, focusing on that.
Yeah, it's that age old UI UX debate of interface versus experience, because like I hate to name drop brands, but like Steve Jobs understood that concept long before a lot of other people did.
Yes. Yes. He really kind of wrote the book on it. Like everyone's really stealing from his playbook, right?
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like you look at Apple Tech now and it's an experience just taking it home and opening it up and experiencing it, not just the device, even though it's the same iPhone from 3 years ago.
Yes. And that's kind of one of the things that I try to teach my PMs, right? Or at least where I try to coach them, because my PM, they're very much professional, sharp, all of them. I wouldn't trade any of them, but really focusing on that experience, right? So don't be wrong, you still have the technical things that you have to deal with, right? Those technical issues related to an initiative, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, what is that experience going to be like for the people that have to live in it? And so, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And going back, I want to keep going back to that island because it's just such a cool thing to talk about.
Yeah.
When
Sorry. Another thing that I left out. So I don't know if you have you ever hung out in the Caribbean? Have you ever been
Yep.
around a pigeon? Like not a pigeon, gosh, I'm blanking the name of the seagull.
Yeah.
Have you ever been around a seagull? You know how aggressive those things are? Those things are super aggressive, right? So one of the things that we had to plan for, risk we had to mitigate against, was seagulls. Because again, you have tons of food there. Like when you come onto the island, we'd have provisions there for you to grab a bite, right? And so captive place, you can't run off the island. So seagulls attract the food. They come for the food, right? And so just thinking through how do you mitigate the risk of a seagull snatching a chicken wing out of a kid's hand, right? Those are the things that you have to think about, right? And we were thought about a lot. I'm not going to tell you where we landed because, again, I don't want to give all the trade secrets. I don't know if anyone from Norwegian's watching, but we got really creative there.
Well, and you talked about a few things and about how you curated the experience. And one of the things that comes to my mind thinking about that is because I haven't been there. I actually haven't been
So,
on a Royal Caribbean ship. I've been on other cruise lines.
listen now, you got to go. You got to go on a road.
Well, my wife was a travel agent for a long time, so she's sold a lot of Royal trips.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
But one of the things I kept thinking about was when you were saying a curated experience, but I'm going to assume and read between the lines there that the curated experience was meant to feel non-curated, to feel seamless, yet yet you as the designer of the experience were building things to coerce people to go in different directions and not overwhelm one part of the island or one part of the infrastructure, different things so that it was a curated experience, but
Yes.
it didn't feel that way.
Correct. No, you're absolutely right. That was really the most important part of the entire project. Don't get me wrong, all of it was super important. But at the end, that playbook that was given that really laid out how everything should work, and training the staff on that playbook, and walking through doing dry run of shows before we let one person set foot on that island. That's what made all the difference in the world. It's not just executing perfectly on the technical execution, but also on the people side, right? Because that's what makes it work. We could have set up everything perfectly, pristinely, right? But if we don't give them that playbook and like coach them to it before we put them in live situations, I don't know if perfect day is a perfect day, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those, you see a whole cruise ship embark of families, and then you watch as three-quarters of them go to the water park.
Right.
You've got to be able to have your staff figure out ways to tell the kids, don't you want to go over here? Because the line of the water park is gonna be terrible.
Yeah, yeah. That flow, that's what makes that flow on the island, off the island. What can you
Hmm.
put in front of a customer first, second, third, right? To really help spread out that demand on anything on the island. Yeah, absolutely right.
And I'm sure that's the same way on the ships, because the bigger they get, everyone talks about the size of these things, but the infrastructure is forgotten about.
Gosh, these are like people need to really like if anyone's watching a show has not been on a ship, they really need to do it because they're really floating cities.
They
Like I
are.
didn't do cruising before Royal Caribbean, so I really don't know what it was like in the 80s. Like cruising just wasn't my jam. But I can tell you, man, like I'm I'm I've worked in towns that had fewer people than could fit on a Royal Caribbean Oasis class ship. Like that shit can comfortably fit 6,000 people, right? Think about it, you got two of them showing up to that island at a time. Two can show up at a time. So that's 12,000 people floating around that island, and you're trying to curate an amazing experience for all of them.
And make sure that everyone's fed, gets their drinks and everything in a timely manner rather than just chaos like you would see at the bar.
Correct. Yes. And safe. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point about the ships, I remember I was on a different cruise line, and then we pulled in to port, and I saw one of those things and I was just like, they are massive. Like TV doesn't do those things justice when you
Yeah.
see them in person.
Yeah.
And that's
Like,
any cruise ship.
yeah. Like neighborhoods on a ship. Yeah. And you get lost. Like
Yeah.
these ships now have burrows. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And I I'm going to ask just because I'm curious, thinking back to Disneyland, where, Walt Disney built that entire infrastructure underground so you wouldn't see somebody from Tomorrowland in Western Land. I know cruise ships have kind of their own ecosystem, but is that thought of in the staffing plan and everything else that you do?
No, because again, I hope this isn't a trade secret, but a lot of the staff, they're multitasking, right? So and it's really not, you don't necessarily have characters on a cruise ship. So that was something I don't think was really a risk now a Disney cruise, maybe, right? But
Mhm.
staff was staff for the most part. So you really didn't, at least I didn't experience that sort of issue or thing.
Okay, just thinking about as these things get so big and so segmented, just thinking about that, if that's a risk that's identified of how do you get people around, and also thinking about it, how do you get staff around so they're not bothered in their off time if they happen to be coming or going from their respective post.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Now that is thought of the way the ships are designed. So the movement you can do underneath where the action is versus, yeah, it's like the labyrinth down there. That again, that was another cool part. My first time on a cruise ship, to get to hang out at the lower deck to really see how the operation works is absolutely it's crazy. The things that these folks are doing with world class excellence in very, very tight conditions. Oh man, it's amazing to watch those folk work.
Yeah, it's one of those, as a PM, you're just in awe of everything watching this going, how is it shouldn't function, but it does.
It's like a symphony. It's like a symphony. Everyone knows their part, and you got different. Think of a symphony. You got different instruments playing different notes at different times, different speeds, but when you put it all together, it just sounds amazing. It's kind of the same feeling.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear to the audience, this is not a commercial for Royal Caribbean.
Right.
This is just exploring a whole new world of project management that I've never been around, and I'm curious. So I'm asking the expert all the questions.
Yeah, no, it was a really good time. It was a really good time.
So so when you were building that island, where did you source stuff locally, or did you have to think about what's the nearest major country, I guess, to be able to bring stuff in from, or was it whatever you could get around that island essentially?
No, and so I got to be careful how much I can share here because I really don't know how much of this is trade
Mhm.
secret. I can say this though. Um, the supply chain is a global supply chain, right? So you're leveraging your spend across the globe.
Mhm.
So you're not you don't necessarily have to procure things locally. Now there's a portion of what you procure that should be local, because again you're trying to curate more of the local experience. But where you source your ground beef or your hamburgers or I'm trying to think of another just commodity, tomatoes,
Alcohol.
really doesn't matter. And so in some the ships can also provision the island, right? So it's
Mhm.
not like you're having to send out speedboats to local grocers or wholesale food distributors. Like some of that stuff can come with the vessel.
Well, if you're doing that, then whoever planned and did the supply chain plan and everything else failed epically if you're spending out speedboats to go get gallons of milk and
Oh yeah,
stuff
or somebody very important on the island.
and has a very specific taste.
Yes,
Even then, that's poor planning because you should have known days
should have
before
known.
that they were coming.
Yes,
But I was
yes.
I was more talking about building out the island itself, like all of the structures, all of the actual island itself had to have, to call that an undertaking is an understatement of a project.
Oh,
How did you source and bring all of that stuff in?
so through our supply chain group, which again, you're based in Miami, so it's not a hard stretch to find vendors that can accommodate, particularly on the structural side, the architectural, and the general contractors that are actually building the islands, really leveraging their expertise of where to source materials. Like, and so some things you didn't necessarily have I didn't necessarily have to plan like who's cutting the steel or who's like some of that stuff we outsource to our partners that just have more expertise in that.
And would you say that having worked with building the ships and supplying everything, what did you take lessons learned from the ship side to the island side?
Oh, yes, yes. A lot of it is very transferable. In particular, like how do you maintain your inventory, particularly on the provision side, right? So your how do you cycle count what's there? How do you make sure that you're flipping your stock? So rotating. So you have a what's the term? FIFO, first in, first
Yep.
out, right?
Yep.
So like that applies to the ships just as well as applies to the island. So a lot of that stuff is very, very much universal. Trying to think what was unique to the island as far as operations.
While you think about that, I'm going to applaud you for for following the show rule by using an acronym and then defining it so I didn't have to ask you.
Oh, I'll send it. I'll send it. I've watched the show.
Yeah, that's a show rule is if you use an acronym, you have to define it. And unless it's a best practice that every PM acknowledged that's the term. But if you use something outside of that realm, you got to define it.
100%. Our CEO at Beacon's kind of the same way. She's not a fan of acronyms because, again, to your point, like you're assuming that people understand what that means, and if they don't, you just cause confusion, right? So
Yeah.
this is when I was at a company called Joy Global. They're now a subsidiary of Komatsu Mining. That's where I got my first introduction to change management and AdCar. And I remember my managers like using it like a verb. We're going to AdCar it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not going to I'm breaking my own rule because it's been previously defined on a previous episode.
Oh, outstanding.
So if you're listening to the show, if you're a loyal listener, then you know what it means. If you're not a loyal listener tuning in for just John, then you can look it up.
Got to look it up.
Legacy, right?
Legacy. Yeah. Outstanding.
So, what were some of the things like that were non-transferable that you kind of looked at and were like, man, we did not anticipate this being a problem?
Oh man, the seagulls. That was the one.
Yeah.
That was one. Think of another one. And it wasn't a problem, but actually, because I tell you what, we didn't have a lot of those things. The reason we didn't because our leadership was so engaged in the work. Like really so, as Mr. Fain, who was there at the time where when we were really building out major portions of Perfect Day, Coco K, he would close his eyes as you're walking him through the experience and literally stop you in a nanosecond if something doesn't resonate. So having executive leadership that engaged where they're walking it through as if they were going through it themselves, it really protected the team from overlooking something. One of the things I'm super proud of is the work that we did around making sure that the island was handicap accessible,
Mm.
right? That we made real accommodations to make sure that someone showed up in a wheelchair, they could have just as much fun, if not more, than people who showed up walking on two legs. And so, again, when I say like we thought of everything, everything.
And I'm going to guess that the regulations for handicapped accessibility is not the same in the Caribbean as it is in the US.
You know what? I don't know the answer to that question. I know there are international standards,
Hmm.
but Royals their stance is to go with the stricter enforcement of a rule, right? Just to be on the safe side and to again just to make sure that you're doing right by all of your customers. Like, we didn't cut corners there.
And to just ultimately think about the experience because
Experience, because
we,
that's what matters the most. That's what makes people go back, right?
well, that it goes back to that state, that whole, the old adage I've always heard about is the story of why you read more negative reviews than positive reviews on anything. And that is because more people are willing to voice their anger and frustration over something and tell anybody that they come in contact with how miserable it was. But if it was amazing, it's expected. So you don't tell as many people unless someone prompts you for it.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I think this is a great place to pause to talk about the Patreon because that's where you're going to get the bonus conversations with every guest, including John. And in that conversation, we're going to be talking about data driven reporting and the challenges of moving from a culture of avoiding risks to one that embraces change. Those are going to be the big topics for that one. And as you can tell, John's probably got some good tips on that from his experience. Oh, he's got notes.
Got my notes.
And so it's $5 a month for the drinking the Kool-Aid tier. And that's where you get access to the postmortem interviews, which is those bonus episodes where I take every guest and I exploit their expertise for your benefit.
Outstanding.
So if you didn't know you signed up for that already, you do now. So let's kind of go back to when you were talking about your stakeholders and how involved they were. The getting executive leadership to buy into something like this. I'm going to assume from my humble experience that it takes a lot to get people to be able to close their eyes and envision a story you're telling them and then be like, no, this doesn't work right when they encounter something that you hadn't thought of.
I would say more you say it takes a lot because I don't think it
Well,
took Mr.
well,
Fain anything. I think it was a reflex. It
well,
was more of like,
I say it takes a lot because you've got to have so much back work done so that when he shows up, you're ready to present. You're doing all of the dog and pony show, and you're not doing it with slides. You're doing it with reality and imagination.
oh yes, oh yeah. Like every month was a lead up to that conversation with those individuals, right? That was we're in the room when we would go through kind of okay, this is where we are in the phase of the in the phase of the project. This is what we want this experience to look like. Everything that we did in that month was for preparation for that 2 hours, right? And so you think of everything like my the product owner at the time, she like she lives rent free in my head with PowerPoint presentations. I called her, I hope she doesn't watch this, but I called her Eagle Eye because she didn't miss a thing. She was so meticulous because she did not want the folk in the room to be distracted by a typo or by a font that was not the same size as another.
Mhm.
So everything, it took me back to military, basic training. I'm not sure if are you
Yes.
military by chance?
Yes.
Okay. So you've scrubbed a bathroom with a toothbrush. You know what
Not
that,
with a toothbrush, but yes.
yeah. Well, that attention to detail, I mean, it was just reinforced there because, and man, good on that leadership to take that much pride in the product that that is what your team had to do to prepare for their meeting with you to sell you on the experience, right? And so, yeah, I can't say enough there.
Well, I want to take a step back there and dissect something you talked about because as PMs, we're notorious for hating presentations and slides and all that stuff. And one of the things I think that part of the reason that everybody hates them so much is that detail, but
Right.
that detail is what stops the presentation in its tracks. Like if you're sitting there presenting and everyone just stares at a typo and you act like you didn't you
Yeah.
see it and pretend like everyone else is wearing the crazy pants.
Yeah. No, I can't unsee it. Like I'm probably one that PM that loves the story. Like again, that's one of the things that drew me to this work, to be able to be a part of the story of transformation of something going from point A to point B and being able to tell that story to get other people excited about it. Like that's one of the things I love about the profession.
Yeah, I'm the PM in the room that when I'm sitting there presenting and I notice an error on my slide, I'll be like, "Oh, that was there to make sure you guys were paying attention."
You passed.
If everybody's staring at that typo and I'm acting like nothing happened, then you just play it off and have some fun with it. Like that
Yeah.
that's the thing that most PMs don't understand is your personality shows through when you're presenting too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that I've had to learn to let some of those things go.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, are they overcomable? Yes. But are they distracting? Yes.
But we also look at everything like I wrote about this a while back that I gave a talk to a group and it went terribly. Like it was the wrong concept for the wrong audience. And I went to my PMI meeting and was talking to our president and I was like, he's like, "Oh, what were you up to this week?" And I told him, "Oh yeah, I gave a terrible presentation to the wrong audience." He's like, "Been there before." And I just
Uh-huh.
sat there and I was like, "You know what? It's not as bad as it seems because I turned it into the positive of saying I had to learn how to talk on my feet because when I saw I was losing the room,
Yeah.
how do you manage damage control of recovering the room? And if you're never going to recover the room, at least making yourself not look like a complete jackass."
Right. Exactly. My superpower is humility. I have no problem. Like, nope, I messed up. Blah blah
Yep.
blah.
Yep.
Yep. And then self correcting. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I start most of my kickoff meetings and projects with I'm literally the dumbest person in this room because my expertise is in project management and that's it.
Yep. Yep.
Because I'm sure you never thought about in your career you'd be building an island.
No. Oh my God. Like most of the things that I've been able to do in my career, like it never in a million years as a kid would I thought I've been to do any of it. Right. And so yeah, but building islands, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I brought the first Israeli made drone to the US.
Oh wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's funny that we talk about all these things and I'm sure you experience the same thing when I would tell people, other PMs about my drone project. It's like, how do you manage that? And I was like, on the back of a cocktail napkin because I'm doing something that's literally never been done before.
Never been done. But isn't that so cool to do something that's never
Oh,
been
yeah.
done before?
Yeah. I mean, I got my name as a co-inventor on 3 patents because of it.
Oh my gosh. I should be interviewing you.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny that like we talk about in project management, everybody thinks about everything is so boring. And it's like, you built an island. I brought drones to the US. Like we talk about this stuff and no one thinks about all the creativity and awesomeness that comes out of project management. Like
Well, that's what has me the most excited about AI because it's for me, it's really shifting the attention from project managers from like the things that you have to do, what I call the maintenance rituals,
Hmm.
the documentation, right? All of that stuff. That's what people I believe think about when they think of project managers. Like the person that builds the charter, update the charter, the manages the change requests, do all manages the risk log, the risk registries, the issues log, right? The decision matrix, right? But all of this work really is going to be automated, right? So it's really boiling down a program manager's, a project manager's role to what it's really there to do, and that's to usher people through transformation, like to help keep the team not just organized but motivated. Right. Another thing I love about my job, I get to be a cheerleader. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And if it
and
doesn't go right, I get to pick someone up. You know?
and I wrote about this recently, but we talk about AI like it's the boogeyman coming for project managers. And the reality is, I came in towards the tail end. I came into the profession towards probably the tail end of the revolution of PPM tools.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that when PPM tools first came out, every PM said they're coming for our jobs and everything else.
Yeah.
And what happened is they did take some people's jobs, but they
Yeah.
took the people who suck at their jobs as PMs and they were glorified coordinators, not project managers. And AI is doing the same thing. And the
Yeah.
same people that are scared are the ones that don't understand the concepts of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. AI is going to separate the wheat from the chaff, as my grandfather would say.
Yeah. It'll, it's just going to do that all over again. And there's probably a small percentage of the profession that was here when that happened the first time around to
Right.
recognize this shift. And when you recognize the shift, if you're good at what you do, meaning all those soft skills, all you got to do is learn how to use it and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And if you can learn how to use it, you can automate all that boring stuff. You can
Well,
automate it away and just get, because to me, like some of the work, I wouldn't say it's non-value add. What's the lean term? It's good. It's business required, but
yeah.
it's not necessarily adding value, right? And you know where I'm going there. Yeah,
Even then, you can value add it by, we talk about how do we, PMs are always blamed for when things go wrong. And then the team is celebrated when things go right.
yeah,
And I've written about this extensively and had these conversations where that's because you're not doing your job right. When you
yeah,
go and get a presentation in front of the change committee or the executive staff or any of those people, you're missing the boat if all you're doing is presenting numbers and data and charts. You should
yeah,
be highlighting the risks we avoided,
yeah.
the things that didn't happen because we saw it before.
Tell the story.
Exactly. Tell the story of the project, not just the vanity, what I call the vanity metrics of making everybody feel good in the room. Give them that you stop that from happening. Like if you talked about the island, going back to that, if you explain to them, we mitigated a hurricane, we mitigated for when a hurricane comes through, how we built a disaster relief plan, a recovery plan. So if a stage one hurricane comes through, we can be back up and running in X days. A stage two, stage three, stage four. You put it in those terms, you're going to get some eyebrows raised about the thoroughness of your work. But if you just say, we built a disaster relief plan accounting for hurricanes and we're good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Those are the same story told
yeah.
differently.
Yes. One's a story that compels, the other's a story that no one wants to hear.
Well, one is a story that grabs attention. So everybody sees that and goes, he's at the helm or she's at the helm. They understand what it is that this job is. And it's not just checking boxes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm curious. I'm trying my damnedest to learn. And so I was on Claude the other night. Again, it's still in the infancy, but holy crap.
It's a first
I find
draft
it's
that
gonna make
saved
my
you
life easier.
hours.
Yeah, it's gonna make my
And
life easier, right?
and the thing that I will die on this hill and never stop saying this of when we start talking about AI and using it for workflows, always know if you're putting proprietary information into a general LLM, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble as a user putting company proprietary information into a tool that's training for the general public.
Yes, yes. And actually, man, that's a great call.
Yeah, because we, everybody like I think there was somebody high up in some government agency that just recently got fired because he was putting government proprietary information into Chat GPT before it was approved.
No, that's crazy.
And I go back to the old wives' tale of, I've heard this, I haven't confirmed it from anyone, but that a lawyer was working on a proprietary NDA, threw it in, this is going back a few years, threw it in Chat GPT to run it through for checking for something.
Yeah.
Now you've got a proprietary NDA that was built by this law firm that's now training the model for everything else. And we're talking about small, like percents of a percent of what it's powering, but think about how much data people are plugging into these things daily. And all it takes is one wrong move. And, just like you said, you want to protect some of the stuff that you know about Royal Caribbean. All it
Yeah.
takes is one wrong move of putting the wrong thing in there, somebody looking for that exact thing, and they
Yeah.
find it.
And they find it. No, I'm trying to get up to date. Are you following the Clawbot thingy?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to get up to speed on. Maybe you can educate me on what happened with the data breach.
Well, that I don't know. I always thought you were talking about there's some new AI tool that was built for AI agents to talk to AI agents.
Yes, and what they did was the again, now this is me speaking outside of my depth, but I'll give you the tea. What I heard.
Well, that's what
Um,
we do.
that's what we do. Um, but long story short, they put the thing out there without really tightening down the bolts on the back end security
Mhm.
parameters, and it was compromised. Where you had like, I think people's API keys were exposed. I mean, like
Well,
crazy things.
all of what you're talking about is something that another former guest has talked about, where we talk about all this vibe coding and how you can build an app with a few prompts and all this. But the problem is that if you don't know what you're looking at for code,
Yeah,
you don't know where your gaps are, where your liabilities are, where your backdoors are,
yeah,
any of that. I've heard that there's even job postings now for vibe code reviewer as the job to review that code and make sure that it meets the criteria.
yes, yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. What my godfather would say. Oh, sorry, it's blanking. I had a witty saying that my godfather would say, and it just slipped out of my head. You were saying, sorry, I think I lost
Oh,
that
you're
one.
you're good. You're good. That's why we don't edit much. Leave it to you to be embarrassed.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm blushing.
Because as much as I record, I put my own foot in my mouth enough. It's always great when a guest does it too.
I'll say, well, my pleasure.
Well, I think that's a great place to get to my personalized question for you, because every
Okay.
guest gets one. And I know your vehicle of choice has two wheels as a motorcycle.
Yes.
Now, if John was king for a day in the US and could make one rule for motorcycles, what would it be?
One rule for motorcycles? Gosh.
And you can't make one rule with multiple dependencies, that you can't play the PM answer of
One rule for motorcycles. Give me more. Give me
you're
better
king
point.
you're king for the day. You get to pick.
I can make one rule for motorcycles.
It can be
My God,
overturning a law. It can be creating something new, whatever you think.
you would have to yield the fast lane to a motorcycle there behind you. You just have to get out the way.
Don't they just go around me anyways?
Kinda, yeah. That's typically what happens, but it'd be nice if you just get out the way.
How about just a motorcycle fast lane?
Yeah, a motorcycle HOV. That would be amazing.
But then how would you have two people? Well, you could have two people on the motorcycle, and that would be fairly obvious if you did.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, but yeah, I gotta write my congressman or someone to see if we can get that one set up.
See, I'm changing lives here. So now is the time when I'm going to put pass the floor over to you and let the audience know where they can find you, if you want them to find you, what you got going on, all that good stuff.
So I don't have a lot to say there yet, but I am working to have something to say there. And so, and again, this goes back to just everything that's happening, everything that's changing the world, particularly around AI. It's just unlocking so many opportunities. It just feels like technology is starting to catch up with folks' imagination. So, where my imagination is going is how can we get better at helping people manage through transition, manage through change? And so, like, kind of another reason why I'm out there playing in Claude, just trying to figure out, okay, what value can I use this? How can I leverage this technology to provide value in that space? Right. And so nothing to share now, but hopefully we stay in contact.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want them to look for you on LinkedIn?
No, by sure.
All right.
By all means, look me on LinkedIn. And I
And
should know my LinkedIn
well,
handle.
I'll have it linked in the show notes.
I'll send it.
And, to your point about the AI stuff, one of the things I've used it for that a lot of people don't think about is to steel man arguments, to play the devil's advocate. Because when you're thinking about risk management, we talk about throw out an idea and say to the room, what does everybody think?
Yeah.
Well, what about using the AI tools as that resource and say, I'm a very like I'm a very paranoid person. Where is my exposure here? I'm a
Yeah.
very excited person, but don't see not farsighted,
Yeah.
create those personas and ask it questions like that to think about how do we mitigate risk management in that perspective? Because you don't always have that room full of every personality, but you can brainstorm a list of personalities and say,
Yeah.
give me the perspective that each of these people see for my
Yeah.
task.
Yes. Yeah. And the folk that think about leveraging AI the way you just explained it, those are the folk that are going to do well with this technology. Because to your point, I think a lot of people are leaning on it as a crutch to give them an answer, right? Or to flatter them on the answer that they
Yep.
already knew should be the one that they should go with, right? And so, but like using it to validate and to test, that is really using, I would say, AI in a more responsible way.
Yeah, I've got a friend who he even told me what he does is he puts the prompt into one engine, takes the output, puts it into another one and says, evaluate this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so it's using multiple AI personalities to check. He's using one AI to check the other AI's work.
Yeah. No, like the agents, oh my gosh, that's the way to go. Like that's my tip for everyone watching today. Learn how to build an agent that could help you validate your work, right? Validate the value that you're bringing.
And with those agents, one thing I'll highlight too is as the process guy, if if you're using AI to speed up a process, make sure your process works first organically before you plug in AI to it. Because all AI is going to do is polish the turd for you.
Polish your turd. Exactly. Yes. Quickly.
Yeah. It won't expose your problems. It'll just put a nice pretty wrapper on them.
Yes. Yeah. And a turbocharger on.
Exactly. And I think that's a great place for us to wrap. I want to thank all the listeners. Most importantly, I want to thank the Patreon subscribers because they're the ones that are helping keep the lights on this show and keep this thing funded. And I want to thank John for his time. So I'll end like I always do. May all your deliverables be on time, your budget's in the black, and your scope not creeping. For John Sullivan, I'm still Trevor, and I'm still the disgruntled PM. Thanks for listening.